Now back to our top story. Several businesses across the coastal bend being shut down for alleged illegal gambling. Bill Churchwell has been out with law enforcement agents, as we mentioned at the top of our newscast. He's in Odom right now with the very latest on this breaking story. Bill?
Actually, Rudy, we are off of 77 just outside of Odom. This business right here behind me, it was called the Silver Dollar. That sign might say open, but it has been closed for business. That's because it is suspected of being involved in illegal gambling. This location, one of several locations we're told that are being raided right now. This all started about 4 o'clock this afternoon, and with me right over here, this is Sam Smith, San Patricio County DA. Sam, what's going on?
Well, these investigations have been going on for 4 or 5 months, and it was determined by the investigators that they were operating an illegal gambling establishment. And we put together all of the information, and today we executed a search and seizure of all of these locations.
And during those raids, so to speak, there were occupants or there were patrons inside at the time.
Yes, on this particular one, there were about 20 patrons. We identified them, took their name, and then let them leave, and then we're in the process of inventorying the whole place right now.
Can you tell us about the other locations that are involved at this point?
One of them is Silver AS, and another one, I can't remember the name at this present time. They are north of Odom, and they were running a gambling establishment also, and also the Elko Auctions, who was involved in the silver exchange in reference to this location.
Can you tell us about all the agencies that are involved in this?
It is the San Patricio County Sheriff's Department, the South Texas Narcotics and Specialized Crime Task Force, and also some Homeland Security agents also helped us out.
Again, this is a developing story we are following, so this is brand new information to us. Thank you, Sam, for your time. I appreciate that. But as more information becomes available, we'll be sure to pass it along. Reporting live just outside of Odom, I'm Bill Churchwell. Now back to you, Rudy.
Thank you, Bill, for that report.